In a renewed quest to continue the agitation for the restoration and recognition of the Biafran sovereignty, having been declared in Finland on the November 24 last year, the Biafran Republic government in exile, acting Prime Minister, have expressed deep commitment and resolve to take the Biafran cause to the White House, Washington, D.C., with Mr. Trump and the congressmen. In a matter of hours from now, based on the information before the public domain, that the Biafran Republic government in Israel, ably led by the acting Prime Minister Ogechukwu Nkere, will be leading the Biafran delegates, the Biafran Republic government delegates to Washington, D.C. to interact and discuss about the cause of Biafra at the Congressional, of course, hearing today, as they have been invited by the congressmen to brief them more details about what they know and believe as they continue to pursue the Biafran cause. Possibly, they will also raise the concerns of the continued detention of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, who has been incarcerated for more than 5 years and been tried for more than a decade and yet to be convicted by the Nigerian court of law, despite the pronouncement by two federal high courts and an appeal court upholding the innocency of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, having discharged and acquitted him on the 13th of October 2022. And following, of course, the position expressed by the group of the United Nations, of course, in charge over arbitral abuse of fundamental human rights, have reviewed the extraordinary rendition of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and eventually have given their positions, instructing the Nigerian government to release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and eventually tender an apology for such abuse of his fundamental rights and a breach, of course, of international laws. But that to no avail. We are yet to see the commitments on the part of the federal government of Nigeria to comply to these directives and obey the verdict of its own court of law established by the Nigerian laws and constitution. It is quite a very disturbing development. All these and sundry matters will be tabled at the Congressional hearing of the U.S. with the Biafran delegates. Today, being the 18th of September, is a milestone, of course, in the course of in pursuance for the restoration of the Biafran state, as the Biafran Republic government in exile at the Prime Minister claims or believes that that is the way to go. We continue to discuss the issue of Biafra to international bodies, and our focus now is the Washington, D.C., the seat of power, the most powerful, of course, overt office in the world today. We'll be welcoming the congressmen and who is who that matters. Possibly will be hearing again. That it's not to say this was the first time they have been briefed about this. Possibly this might be a follow-up to these discussions, negotiations, and lobbying, and the rest of them, the Ahmad Dabri and the Jerosolis, and of course, the former Congressman Jim Morris will also be leading the delegations, I strongly believe, of course, to the Congress, U.S. Congressmen, to address the issue of Biafra, just as Mazi Simon Ekpa has maintained that the Biafra will come from the Western world, and possibly this could be one of the strategies or the strategies of the Biafran Republic government in Israel amidst of course, internal conflicts among the Biafran agitating groups and the rest of them. Okay, Chukwuikere has remained focused, committed, of course, to the cause which he truly believes is the only way of emancipation of his own people. I mean, the Biafran people who continuously have expressed dissatisfaction over their continuity or their continued existence in Nigeria, haven't been threatened by the current uh, existence and that of the past. Recall this culminated into the civil war where Ojukwu declared Biafra with the intent, of course, to preserve and protect the posterity and the life and the culture of the people. As Ojukwu said, we fought to defend our right to live, and that is just the case. We are just defending our right to live while the war was declared upon us by the then military head of state, Yakubu Gowon, who led the war, of course, to capture Ojukwu, but eventually could not. And at the point of negotiation for a ceasefire, Philip F. Young raised concerns. If those issues that leads to the civil war is not being addressed, the children of these ones who today is declaring no victor, no vanquish, will definitely rise to fight. And 50 years down the line or more, of course, the renewed quest for the restoration of the Biafran state has remained very strong than ever imagined, taking international dimensions, I mean, that have not been, of course, experienced, or it has not gotten to such level in the history of the Biafran struggle. In fact, by 1967 to 1970, barely, of course, a few people or nations were aware of the Biafran going on, or some persons could not understand there was an agitation for secession or a declaration of the sovereign state of Biafra that was made. But in most recent time, with the advance of internet and digital, of course, platforms, eventually more people or more nations have become aware of the oppression of the grievances being expressed by the indigenous people of Biafra, comprising, of course, the Ijaws, the Shekris, the Sokos, the Igbos, and the Calabares, and every other Eastern brothers that is formed within this defined or supposed territory, of course, declared as Biafra by the Chukwuemeka Ojukwu on the 30th of, no, 30th of May, 1967. Eventually, history is made, and in this war, there were several casualties on the part of the defenseless population of the eastern people of defined different territory, involving children, defenseless mothers, and including, of course, men were massacred. According to reports, not less than 5 million people were killed. And there are documentaries to this heinous crime in the course of this war being executed or forced on the Biafran people. And today, of course, it clearly appears that those resentments, those grievances have not been addressed despite the no victor, no vanquish being pronounced by Gowon administration or tyranny as the head of state. Gowon promised to reintegrate, reconstruct, and rehabilitate the Eastern region that was just, of course, victim of the ruins of war. And unfortunately, such promises never saw the light of the day. And that is to tell you how insincere and lack of commitment clearly expressed by Gowon as the head of state. Now, close to 60 years or 50 something years down the line, the same issue is raising its ugly head. The same agitation is building up, growing than ever imagined before. Now, several attempts have been made by Mazen Nnamdi Kanu demanding that equity, fairness, and justice be the defining basis for the continued existence of Nigeria or the member ethnic nationalities defined as part and integral part of Nigeria. He has been calling for equitable distribution of the common wealth and resources and the opportunity for growth and development be expanded beyond the shores and, of course, of the southeastern region. It should not be concentrated only in the north and the western part of the country, but in the interest of national coherence, of course, growth and development, that the progress and integration of different ethnic nationalities in matters that involve economy, politics, must be decisively spelled out to ensure balance, fairness, and equity. All those cries and concerns unfortunately fell on deaf ears, and the federal government of Nigeria and the ruling class, of course, ignored those yearnings of the people being presented or projected by Mazin Nnamdi Kanu's movement. And when Mazin Nnamdi Kanu called for regional control of the resources to enable it, the regions control their own resources, develop at their own pace, and address peculiar issues bordering on security and sundry matters, of course, based on their common shared values and ideology and cultural similarities among the Eastern brothers. And unfortunately, such was jettisoned or was not, of course, attended to even by the conspiracy of the southeastern governors or the elite in the eastern part of the country, most importantly, the southeastern region. And that continue to increase the lack of empathy and, of course, sense of commitment on the part of the Eastern people. They felt they had been sidelined and skimmed out of events. There was no equity fairness being expressed in the common distributions of the Commonwealth. Just of recent, you saw what happened during the national budget, annual budget. The entire southeastern region was not captured in the laudable federal government project, and some courageous senators went to inquire what would have led to this. Why is the entire southeastern region scheme out of events not included in Tinubu's budgetary allocation for federal projects? Unfortunately, the response was wait for supplementary budget, which means could it be an error or an intentional act that the entire region could be sidelined, not be captured in the physical uh, planning of this administration? It is quite unfortunate. This and many other reasons could have informed the reason why the continued agitation or quest for the restoration of the Biafran state continue to build up. Of course, more sadly, also is the aspect of insecurity where Mazen Nnamdi Kanu cried out over the invasion of the forest beds of the eastern region where farmers have been killed, indigenous people have been invaded by the marauders and the militias, Fulani militias or the terrorists or bandits, whatever they are called. Of course, Mazin Nnamdi Kanu raised concern again that is need to protect the indigenous people so that they could go about their legitimate duties as they are predominantly farmers, those, of course, communities and suburbs should have the liberty to go to their farms, cultivate, and also harvest their crops without any fear of being killed or, of course, either raped or uh, mutilated, and the rest of them. It was a very disturbing development and issue of concern, and being moved by his love and care for his people. Mazenam began to set up the Eastern Security Network, which he clearly specified that its operations and mission was to protect and make sure that the forest bed of the eastern region is safe for people to go about their legitimate duties without fear of being killed, raped, or adopted for ransom. It is quite interesting, but unfortunately, the southeastern governors have refuted such idea and countered it today. Its history, of course, we are seeing today, but sadly failed to protect the boundaries. The forest bed of the eastern region today has become a killing field. I mean, a free-for-all fight. The operations of the non-government, the activities of the political elites of gladiators, forming their own frontiers, and of course, paramilitaries and the rest of them, will nobody actually so is serving the collective interests of the people, which is to protect the people and make the regions return back to its, of course, a state of safety, has been considered as the most safest place, of course, in terms of human security and settlement. The eastern region of Nigeria was considered the most secured region less than 10 years ago. But today, unfortunately, what we are hearing is quite heartbreaking. And these and many other reasons have made the people, of course, bent at demanding for the restoration of the Biafran lost sovereignty, which Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, has been, of course, subjected to endless uh, trial despite the verdicts ruled by the Nigerian courts of law. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has maintained there is no any law, including that of the Nigerian constitution, that bans him from expressing his fundamental rights and the rights of freedom of association, which is captured and encapsulated in international laws and treaties and conventions upholding the rights of the people to self-determination. As Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has expressed, it is his right, it's within the rights of the people, of course, to seek for self-determinations and define their own political future. It's an inalienable right given to God by men, given to men by God, which cannot be usurped by any non-institution of the state. This is quite interesting, and these are many more reasons they are going to be discussing with the U.S. Congressional hearing on the Biafran cause, the Biafran restoration today. That provides an ample opportunity for the Biafran Republic government in exile to present the argument logically and defensively. Of course, the need to convince the U.S. congressmen for the nagging need of the restoration of the Biafran state. Being able to convince them and, of course, reach certain compromise or bilateral agreements. It is a process, and the continued engagement might possibly get the attention of Mr. Donald J. Trump eventually to come to the rescue of the Biafra people who are scattered all over the world, including in the United States, in Washington, D.C. You can see their presence massively contributing to the economic and political growth of the U.S. So they are everywhere, scattered all over the world, but sadly, their own father house, their own ancestral home, is in news, dissected today, becoming a very disturbing region, honestly, marked by insecurity, unrest, infections, subjugations, enforced disappearances, and people could no longer go back to invest in their own supposed ancestral homes or regions to boost the economic viability and create more jobs for those locals uh, who have been deprived of such of livelihood over decades. Some are willing to, of course, bring their resources and enormous uh, knowledge and wisdom, technology, and innovations down to the regions, but they are scared that their safety and property could not be guaranteed under the configuration known as Nigeria. So they continue to seek for an independent state where their own right, of course, to life will be guaranteed and the freedom of expression and in pursuance of their own peace, of course, will be realized. This they strongly believe could only be achieved with Biafra independence. And today, we possibly will get to know whatever might be the outcome of such discussions or deliberations. Yes, the U.S. Washington, D.C. Uh, Congressional hearing commences today, the 18th of September, barely few hours from here, because I think we Africans, from where I'm reporting, is ahead of the U.S. Time zone. And hopefully, in the matter of a few hours today, the morning will be breaking forth with another heralding, of course, uh, news that will shook the world. Let's have your own take regarding this undoubting uh, efforts, courage, and commitment towards taking the cause of Biafra to the Washington, D.C. Of course, insisting that the U.S. under the Donald Trump administration must do something in the interest of humanity, being considered as the greatest and the highest defender of human dignity, the rule of law, and the fundamental rights of the people, and considered as the police of the world. Perhaps, could we say at this time that the United States is on trial either to defend the human dignity or to turn away from the yearning agonies of a people suppressed, marginalized, and who believe the only escape route is the restoration of the sovereign state of Biafra. Well, that is the honest experience expressed an opinion in that regard. Let's have your own take regarding this. If you're watching us, wherever you might be watching us, let's get to know where you're watching us from. And eventually, will you be opportune to visit the U.S. Congressional hearing on Biafra today? And possibly, we may want to get the response. Wherever you might be watching us from, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more political updates and turn on the notification button as we are, of course, committed to bringing you events and developments across and around the world. Thank you once again. Chicos and Debo, the host anchor. Bye for now.